Okay, Hannah. So I'm going to have you, it might already have shifted on you a little bit, but we're just going to go back and kind of stir the pot a little of what was up for you. So give me some of the language, some of the angles, and we're going to do inquiry, and you've done a couple of those, I think, with me. So we're just going to meet what is and see what unfolds here, because I can do my blah, blah, but it's going to be so much better to have your subconscious interact with you than me. So, okay. Where do you want to start, hon?
Okay, so I'll just dive in instead of trying to find the right words. So yep. It's just occurring this past week. So we've used the word shift already, and in context of shift it, and then just through the whole dialogue of this call already. And it's funny that that's where I'm going to start, which is I've made a number of shifts this week, and I can sense them energetically and emotionally. And there's still some things to be done about them to like complete them, but the fundamental of the shift is there. And so that's been going on personally. And I feel like one of those also for me is I've been paying attention to politics more than ever, just lately in general. So I do thank Donald Trump for that, and the whole,
Yep.
I'll disagree with or whatever. Won't get in. So anyway, so
let me just say something real quick, just container-wise. Okay, we're going to go into inquiry with Hannah. Ding, ding, ding is going to be about politics. So triggering may happen. So back to what I had said in the opening container. Renee, you missed this, but orphans, bodyguards, emotional scale. You may be, when we do inquiry with a person, you may be tracking exactly the way they are. And there's a lot of parallel processing going on. Or you could be tracking for a certain part, and then, your way that you're lined up with it goes a different place. And that can happen any way along. So all of that is okay, right? When we process with one person. And afterwards, we'll come back and see what's going on for other people in terms of how much of the processing and what goes on for Hannah and what goes on with her larger states of consciousness is the same as what's going on for you. Thank you, Hannah.
I appreciate that. And I'm actually, that's part of why I brought it to the collectives. I'm curious to hear what is there. So, so
so you're paying more attention, and what's going on when you're paying more attention?
I've been paying more attention, but partly I can only pay attention to a certain degree, because then I just get frustrated. And it's not even just about the politics per se. It's just about it's even about communication, right? Like misinformation or misinterpretation or whatever, whether that's unintentional or intentional. So some of these, even those fundamental things, are really people not citing their sources, or whether it's political leaders or people on Facebook or everywhere in between. And so it's been bothering me all along, and now it's just reached a boiling point, I guess.
Okay. Yep.
And then when you combine that with things that aren't even politically related at all, like there's a lot less reporters and news outlets in general, official ones anyway, right? So there are things that just aren't even being documented in many ways because of that trend overall over the past few years. There's a increased incidence of I think there's an incidence, but there's also an awareness of it. Both have increased, of fake news and manipulations, etc. Not just of the elections, but of all things. I mean, It's been going on all along, but now things have really evolved technologically to the point where there are things that are created that you can't even tell that it's fake, right? So that degree of, like, right now my hairs are just standing up. So even if you're trying to cite your sources and you're really diligent about your information and you're going to blah, blah, blah. Also, there's good news about things like we have a lot of pre-published scientific studies that are being done. And they go to a website and it's talked about and discussed even in the general news in the era of COVID, which is really great that all scientists around the world are, for the most part, collaborative on things when it used to be really just competitive.
Yeah, and you come from a scientific background, so this is also going to really get your attention.
Yeah, so I've worked in government lab, academic lab, and corporate lab. So knowing that that's the case there, this is a brand new world for science, which is awesome. And there can be a lot of, again, miscommunication, misinterpretation, and then of the science. And that's just the COVID piece of it. So then one of the things that we just briefly touched on earlier was the vaccine piece, where I just heard recently about they're asking people about the vaccine. I know there's some mistrust or distrust of the government for valid reasons for things like Tuskegee and other situations. But it's also due to misinformation as well. And associations that were made that are incorrect. And so also, not only the science that I was in happened to be in vaccine work, public health as well. So it's really hitting home for me in that, in this way. And I think there was a question in the chat about the vaccine. No, the vaccine is not the end all be all. It's really an important tool, but it's not the only thing. So absolutely. Hold on, let me just turn my ringer off.
Christina, can you share your screen?
Oh, thank you. Thank you. I thought I was. Please feel free. I'm glad you did, and do it even sooner.
I had posted it in the chat.
I know, but I can't read the chat when I'm doing that. It's hard enough just doing it. 1 second, I just lost something here. Okay, Hannah. So thank you. This is also a good time because I would have called it at some point. So this is a good time to call it, right? So I'm just letting you get that out, right? Go ahead. You got one more you want to get out.
One last piece of it that I just see that the word politics popped out at me, and I just want to not dive into that, but just say that so that's tying into some of the things like Black Lives Matter, for example, because Trump has deployed federal troops to a number of different cities around the US where purportedly they're there to quell the violence and riots and all this stuff, but it's actually having the opposite impact. And including the fact that there are places that they've been deployed to that nothing is really actually going on. Even the places they've been invited to, they've been deployed to, they weren't invited by the people in those locations, right? So it's like, why would what would be the reason for that? Why would we need to do that from a bigger picture? And so there's a lot of things like that I feel like, even though, yes, he might not legally be able to delay the election, which he's recently just suggested doing, or things like that, that there are ways that he could end up really affecting it legally with PR stuff or just, troop movements or things like that. So that's also got my hair standing up on end. And I'm not, and it's a fine balance for me to say, because I'm not an alarmist in general. I know we're all going to be fine individually and collectively, and it's all part of what needs to be happening. What do I want to say about it? And
I'm going to slow you down.
Yeah,
we're going to go back. Don't worry. If there's something there that needs to come out, it will.
I guess the last piece I just want to say about that part of it is just that it's almost slightly embarrassing for me to even just bring these things up, because usually this isn't show up for me this way. So that's what
Okay, so that's where it goes after that.
Yeah.
Okay, good. I'm going to get the embarrassment down. Okay.
Usually I'm the one that's like, okay, it's all good.
Right.
We're
Well,
fine.
this is good because as process people, right, it shows that it's okay for us to go across the whole emotional scale and for us to get concerned and alarmed and overwhelmed and all these various things too, right? So even if there's other aspects of our consciousness that go into a different place. Okay, so I just got this. I did my best. Thank you, Jude, for alerting me that I didn't have the screen share going on the graphic. So I scrambled along behind you. And so now we're going to go to the very beginning, and it came out layers. Anybody is doing this, you can do inquiry yourself. So that's why I'm talking this out a little bit, right? You can do it on yourself and your own stuff. So you can just let yourself blah and just get all the stuff, right? You can also record yourself, which is nice, audio record it, because as you saw with Hannah, can be a lot there, a lot of nuance. And anyway, there's multiple ways you can do this to get this down yourself. So I did my best to get Hannah. So now we're going to go to the beginning because I trust the parfait layers of how this came out. And let's just take it at the beginning. So the first thing you opened up with was shifts that I'm actually there's this area in my life and different areas of my life that I'm on it. And Hannah's employs a coach, myself, others. And so she's really on it. She's a go-getter. She makes it happen. She does strategic planning and visioning. So she's just alerting us here, and her consciousness is saying, hey, you got a lot of shifts in play and they're happening. So like, good on you, good on me, your consciousness is saying. So we want to go, you know what, consciousness, you're right. You're right, good on you. You're welcome here. There are a lot of fundamental shifts that Hannah's got taken care of. So we're just nodding to that and applauding those and recognizing them. Big slam happened here. And doing just a little bow to that part there that's pointing out before it went into all this stuff, right? Just alerting us that there's a lot of stuff going on that is quote unquote good and fine and progressing nicely. Whew. Okay, I'm just feeling tapping. So I'm just tapping that. Anybody new with tapping, we'll fill you in later. Head, heart, or gut helps with the processing of it through. And then we move into, okay, now that we got those shifts acknowledged, now we're turning our sides to politics. And what first came up was, I haven't historically done a lot with politics. So we're getting that preamble. And now I'm paying more attention. And then it's, now let me tell you what I'm paying attention to. So we're just going to go, okay, part of Hannah's consciousness is paying attention now to politics. You're welcome here. You have arrived. You're on the scene. Glad you're here. You're mic'd up. And then we heard boom, 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 this aspect of her consciousness, right? All different layers. So we're just going to take them step by step, Hannah. First thing, I think you went into the communication. That it's not just about politics, but it's about communication. And my sense of that was the back and forth and the misunderstanding and the lack of sourcing and the undocumented. So we're just going to say, you're going to say, I'm going to invite you to say, you're right. Say to that aspect of your consciousness, you're right. It's pointing out all these things. Just agree with it. You're right. You're on it. You're right. Yeah.
It also was great to say that to myself and literally see it. Also, I felt like I was saying that to my gut, who's like feeling this stuff.
Yeah. Okay, good. So now you're aware somatically, all this stuff really lands in your gut. Yeah.
Also,
okay.
like right here, I'm like warm sometimes.
That's mind, right? And then this is the deeper instinctual body stuff. So we're just like, hello, welcome mind, because the mind is like trying to sort it all out. Yeah. And it did a beautiful job because it just gave us the whole blow by blow of it. So we want to bow to mind. You're welcome.
That's like showing up, like the gut is where I'm feeling it and the brain is trying to figure out what the heck this all means that we're
Yeah, it's trying to process it. Poor little brains. Let's all like love our brains, our minds, right? That's an aspect of our consciousness. It's a wonderful aspect, but you know, it's one dimensional. It's just got, it's one tool in the toolkit. So we're gonna go mind. Thank you. Like, oh my God, look at what you just did. You've been tracking all this stuff. Thank you, thank you, thank you. And honestly, right? Like my voice will be whatever, right? But just know that there's sincerity. Like it's, you need to really meet it and thank it. So do that first before it gives you another thing. Because there's more places I want to go, because I want to go to the gut next before we go back to the mind.
Exactly where I was going to.
Yeah, okay, good, good, good. Now we're going to go to gut. And I know from working with you, your gut is huge in how you process information. So now the gut, that's that first chakra, that's that instinctual. This is the body, right? The body has a whole level of consciousness itself. Very different from the mind consciousness. So we're just gonna, you are, all of us, because we're processing individually. Hannah, I invite you to bow to that gut and go, you're right, this is making you uneasy. As the mind's doing its thing, you're having a reaction, the body is going into its defenses. You're right, it doesn't feel good. It's concerning, it's alarming. You're right. Just meet it. You're welcome here. I'm listening. You're right. I feel myself relax a little. Now let's keep going down the list of things and see if anything happens before we move on to new stuff. I know the mind and the gut may have their responses, but let me just check with the other things in here. And mind, thank you. You pointed out fake news. You pointed out the ability now with technology to fake everything so that you can't necessarily, you can't rely on what you're seeing or hearing because tech can fake it. Which can be manipulated. So we're bowing. You're right, mind. You're right. You read all that stuff. You're right. Sucks. Bummer. Then the science part of you kicked up, right? So mind's connected to your scientist. We want to bow to that because you have a incredible history and education as a scientist. So thank it, acknowledge it, give it roses, give it a kiss, you know, love it. Yeah. Yeah, because your poor scientist is feeling a little bit out of shape with some of the stuff the mind's encountering. So we just want to give kudos to that scientist aspect of you.
That's appreciated too, because the scientist is the left brain. It's, you know, we're getting into territory with a lot of the stuff that I'm starting to, even just this, right? Let alone some of the other modalities and whatnot are getting outside of the realm of comfort for the scientist part of the brain, right?
Yep. And we're just going to agree with it because from its point of view, it's totally right. It's, you know, I can all see it in a little lab coat, you know, going, oh, you know, with the little check board or whatever, right? Like very linear, very proper. It's adorable and smart and we appreciate it. Right? So appreciate that. And that's part of mind. So you've got a very developed mind with the scientist. Love it. Okay. And then it's going into, whoa, like what really gets the scientist is, yeah, and there's the process yawns as you're starting to yawn. That's the parasympathetic system coming on. Excellent. Good. So some of the tension is starting to relax. And then it's going, yeah, like all the theories and all the points of view with COVID. And then what's emerging out of COVID is the race for the vaccine and different people's, there was already a bunch of reactions to vaccines. And now there's a reaction to this one and 50% of the population is apparently saying, no, thank you. So scientist is like, understandably reacting to that. He's in a kerfuffle, or she, right? I shouldn't say he. I feel this little guy in there. Incorrect associating, all this stuff that people are doing around this. And now there's, the hairs are standing up. So we're like, hello hairs. Yeah, you're right. What the mind's poking into and what the scientist is coming up against is hair raising for you. Acknowledge that. And all of that is going into a boiling point. Ugh. So your right mind, your right gut, it's very upsetting. There's a boiling going on. Alarm is kicking in. Alarm is a really important mechanism in the human system, so we all want to bow to alarm. That you have a functioning alarm, Hannah. Good news. And then what kicks in, I know there's something else going on, but I'm just going to follow this thread. Then kicked in embarrassment, right? Because once that kind of got out of the system and everything, then it's like, oh, I feel kind of a little embarrassed. So we're just going to go, oh, hello, embarrassment. You're right. That's okay. Now let me go see, now I've brought us up to speed, right? I could have slowed that down each second, but sometimes it comes out in a big rip and needs to. So I let that happen, and then we go back and we da-da-da-da-da. Now we're on point. Now we can have it unfold from here. Now what's happening?
So I'm seeing the brilliance of what you intuitively drew, which is that all that stuff is behind the figure. Like that came out, and now we're facing forward. Like now what? What's next is where I'm at, right?
Okay.
And also the gut and the alarm and the embarrassment is also below the figure. So that's the somatic experiences I'm having.
Yep.
And that's where they're coming from. So they're coming from my gut up into my mind.
Or the mind down, right? As the mind pokes into various things and whatever, the gut's going to have a response to that.
So that's
how it's framed up. Yep. How the mind, the scientist. Yep. Yep.
And so what occurs is to keep that strengthening that, acknowledging that, and strengthening that connections there, and also extending them. So below would be like the grounding in the earth.
Ah, okay, very good.
And so that, like, exactly, yep. And so that can be soothing and calming right there. Also informative too.
Okay, so from alarm, see, and it all came from welcoming it all, not making any of it wrong. And out of this popped out grounding. So we're going to put that in. Earthing, grounding, and then you said there's something going on up above too. So what's going on up above?
Like if you took a semicircle, like you took the top of my skull off.
Yep.
Basically. So there's and right into the top of my head. Yep, exactly. And so there's like this whole information exchange that way too.
Yeah. So that's your universal really tapping in. You got the ground, back to planet, right? Back to magnetism map with the planet. Now we've got the larger system, galaxy. Yay, we're going into galaxy. Okay. So welcome that. So let's, all of us can get great benefit from this. Let's welcome the earth. Let's welcome the out of this Freya stuff. Oh yeah, put down that grounding cord, go down into Mother Earth. Whew. And the somatic exchange that happens there. Welcome, welcome, welcome. Hello, Mother Earth. Sorry about it all. I put my little asides in for my own processing. And then you got this stretch happening. The head opens up. Out of here shoots this column up above. And we're going to welcome that. You're welcome here, these resources, these assets, this part of the larger system, right? We think it's just this system. Now you just expanded into a bigger system where you can find some resource. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Whew. See what happens from here.
It's an inquiry into, again, sort of triggered by the drawing, where it seems to be like you have a finger pointing this way. I don't know if that's
you said what's next. I didn't write it. Yeah.
So that's and so that's the inquiry I'm in, and I think we are all in general, but also thinking about, well, we were, I'll speak for myself, but was in that inquiry to begin with, but now I'm thinking more deeply and broadly, and in the areas mentioned, but also in terms of time, like all of a sudden in my head, I'm thinking 18 months instead of 6 months.
Okay, right. Okay, very good. So the next thing that went, and this might be mine, we don't know, it might be something else, but time is being pointed out. Yeah. So we're just going to welcome, oh, hello, time.
Sort of like the idea of, and I, I'm going to add the refinement of, there's an impending sense of, it's not really doom for me. It's just a big change and changes in everything and everywhere. And so it's up to interpretation, whether that's doom or whether that's whatever, you know, but the scope and scale of it somehow, both time and then the topic areas and all around the globe, are just suddenly seem much greater than it's like I was aware and aware and aware and aware and aware, sort of like skipping stones, and all of a sudden it just kind of hit me.
Yep.
In the entirety of it.
Yep.
So that's the shift there that's been made for me over this past week, is to be like, whoa, wait, it's way bigger and deeper than I had really allowed myself to see before.
Okay. Okay, so just hold on. Let's go there before another layer comes. So we're just going to welcome the emergence of time, like what's next came, and then the whole what about timing? And here's that 18 months again. You said that earlier too. So we're going to put this, like 18 months is now starting to show up. This scope, it's hitting me, the entirety. Oh my God, whoa, wait, this is big, this is deep. So just welcome that. You're right. You're right, whichever aspect, if this is mine, the scientist, whatever, the wake up call here. Whew. Just meet it, just welcome it. See what happens from here.
What happens is the mind keeps wanting to be like, okay, so what do we do about this, right? Like, what does this mean and what do I do about it?
Okay, good, good. So let's go here. What does it mean? Because the mind, that's how it's one trick pony. So it wants to try to use the intellect. What does it mean? So good question, mind. We get it, sweet mind. You're trying to compute it, does not compute. What does it mean? And then I think you said, what do I do?
Yeah, what do I do about this? And that means like me individually, but also for all of us, right? For my family, my friends, my colleagues, my whatever, all the things that are shifting.
Yep, yep.
What does it mean for science and public health? What does this mean for and how to be in it and like, but also above it in a way of being of best service, leading edge of it.
Mm-hmm. Good. Just getting it all down. Big service, best service, leading edge of it. Okay, thank you, thank you, thank you. So with all this is just, it's nuance, right? Nuance on this whole thing about time and action and trying to understand it so you can figure out what to do, right? Action, again, more left brain mode, masculine mode, bowing to it. It's great, it exists in you. Now, there was something that did come up, so I'm going to go there. There's doom in here. I mean, there is the whole doomsday thing and the dooms clock, or, you know, 1 minute to midnight, all that kind of stuff, right? So I just want to go, I'm going to meet doom. Hello, doom. Now I'm going to check something. So subconscious, does it mean that doom has to happen?
No, and Hannah mentioned it, which was doom is an interpretation, and
okay.
it's and for some people it might be. It could be literal physical death. It could be the death of a business. It could be the death of whatever, right?
But
like
we're checking with your consciousness, and your consciousness is saying, no, it's an interpretation. Everybody else, as you encounter doom, ask the same question. Especially if you have, this is what goes on for me, because I have a lot of, with the Kundalini stuff, this is already happening, but I had a lot of past life regression stuff, and I had all these different characterizations, whether my lives or I'm tapping into something in the collective, where over and over and over and over again, I'd be meeting catastrophe. And somehow I thought I had avoided it in this life. But now that I come here, it's like, oh, crap, here it is again, right? But, you know, does that mean that this equals all that? right? So the consciousness will do interesting things. So it's always good to check when you get the doomy stuff. This has become a go-to line. Does it mean that's true? Does that have to happen for this instance? Yes, that might have happened before. That might happen for other people. Does that happen for me? Just check. You'll see what you get. So Hannah's getting, it's interpretation. Doom is interpretation.
I think what the phrase that I think it was Connie was using was impending doom.
Yep.
And I was definitely, now I just get the things just saying it again, right? And so,
Yep.
but what's landing for me now is as a distinction of those words where the impending part, yes, I'm 100% resonating with that. Impending, but then the question is impending what? And
right.
Fill in the blank for the second word. It could be doom. It could be liberation, really. I mean, it depends on a lot of things, right? But fundamentally interpretation. And
yeah, so an aspect of your consciousness is saying, no, it's not necessarily doom here. There's interpretation going on, and hey, this could actually be a flip. This could actually be liberation. So let's take a moment. That's magnificent. That's amazing. So let's just meet, shall we? Let's meet liberation. Liberation, you are welcome here. Here's a possibility. Here's something that can be on our magnetism maps. We are liberated. We have liberation. Oh, Hannah. Oh, sweetie. Yeah.
it feels a lot, even sacrilegious to say that when most of what I hear about is the doom part.
Okay, so now it's coming. This is that embarrassment stuff, right? So sacrilegious is the word you're using. It might be like shameful or something, wrong. And we're just going to welcome that. As soon as you tap into, maybe it's guilt, right? With the religious, that how could I shift from impending doom to liberation? So just meet it, just welcome it, and welcome the tears, the beautiful tears. Tears are always cleansing. See what happens as you meet it. Went to liberation, we welcome liberation, and then kaboom, we hit the sacrilegious.
It feels like the earth and the, for lack of a better word at the moment, sky right now are basically saying, thank the Lord, somebody is giving voice to this.
Yeah.
You all.
Well, good. And this is like back to the magnetism map thing with the planet, right? Giving word to some alternatives here. The pre-paving. We're co-created beings, so we gotta use our focus, right? Yeah. So thank the Lord. Someone is, what is it? Wording this? What did you say? Giving voice. Yeah, giving voice to this
possibility.
Yes. Okay. Beautiful. Oh, wow. Okay.
So I feel now the earth under me and the galactic perspective above and around.
The earth's saying that. Yeah. And the sky is saying that. Here's, bring the sky down here. Me too.
Yeah.
Yippee. Someone's focusing this way. Creator being. Yay. Instead of the way all the manipulation of focus is going. Excellent. Okay. Thank you. Thank you. Thank you. Bowing to that. Give some flowers, give some kisses, give some big devotional stuff to sky and earth.
There's also my little, inside my gut, the little kind of microbes or whatever, the original gut components are resonating with that frequency too.
Oh, okay, good. The gut likes that. The gut's like, yes, please. We like this better. Okay, good. So those little microbes. Yes, yes, yes. They're so sweet. They all like liberation, and they all like someone giving voice to that flip. Yes, please.
I feel like they're heard too. They've been sounding the alarm kind of, but it's like somebody needs to interpret their,
Ah,
that, you know, in human words, somebody needs to speak what they're
thanks for interpreting us. Good. Oh, they're giving you flowers back.
basically. Yeah, like thanks for taking time to listen and bring this up, even though you're a little nervous about it or speaking about it, or especially in a group or whatever. You know.
Yeah, yeah, yeah. They're giving you kudos. It's beautiful work that you're doing for the planet and for humanity
And
and
yourself.
for yourself.
They're also saying, like, one of the things that shifted this week was my front top. So they're also saying, yes, and still keep paying attention. We're going to keep sending you messages.
Good. That's the next thing that's coming. Okay, good. And still keep paying attention.
Because the impending part is real. So
right.
You need to keep aware.
There's definitely stuff impending. It may be liberation as opposed to doom. So like, good to keep aware.
And everybody's going to need to bring that to be able to navigate.
So just say to it, if this is right for you, say, you're right, I will. Yes. I am paying attention.
And I appreciate the example they just did over the course of a couple of months. They gave me an example of how I had an intuition to bring my car in, even though there was no lights or obvious things, thought it was okay, got back on the road again. It really wasn't okay, had a breakdown, but in the best possible, safest possible way, and then got it taken care of very quickly. So, but all along in between, they were giving me hints, and I'm just trying to paraphrase it for the sake of this. Anyway, it was a great example for me of something that could have been really disastrous and probably tragic happening in the safest.
So the right brain speaks in metaphors. So it's giving you a story, right? There's a whole metaphor. There's a whole unpacking. It's going, it's just like what happened with your car.
Exactly. And
apply this, apply the same thing to this big stuff to what happened with the car. Like what happened to the car. We'll alert you. We'll let you know what you need to know.
And an important part of doing that is keeping that pull through on the thing you drew with all through myself, as well as all through to the earth and the bigger picture.
Yeah, let's get you down here grounded. Yeah. Okay, good. Good. So thanks for the capsule it gave you and the story it reminded you of, so you had something to connect to, like, oh yeah, just like that. Okay, boss, thank you. See if there's anything else. You're so gorgeous, so beautiful, and just bow to that wisdom of yours that we're all benefiting from. You'll continue to connect with it and unfold with it, but there's a little bit of tiny space left on here. Any other words of wisdom it wants to offer before we conclude?
The last thing is that they're all saying, my gut, the galactic, the planet is saying, keep painting.
Yes.
Sometimes, or whether that's viable or valued or all the things now. And yes, it's really important for all those things, as well as to keep, it's a practice that is grounding to you and soothing to you and challenging. Like it's not, so it's exciting.
Mm-hmm. So what's going on in the midst of all this is your painting, is your unfoldment, is your connection and alignment that happens there. So they're telling you, keep going with that, keep painting. That's the action, because you're asking what to do. Keep painting. That's what to do. Keep painting. Pay attention, because there's stuff unfolding here. It's impending for sure, but keep painting. So bow to that. Thank you. Thanks for that. Helping with the action. Yeah.
It's a relief too, because I often defer it because I think I need to do other things.
Yeah, and just see as that came up, oh yeah, that I think I have to defer. What does it say about the deferring? Or anywhere it goes as you kind of go, oh yeah, I think I have to defer. Thanks for the reminder. Anything else? Where does it go after that?
It goes into just effing do it, like the word, but like
Yep.
exclamation points, like.
Okay, so it's like, get to the painting, just do it.
Yeah.
Okay, bow to that.
And do it first in the day. And do it too, right? Like, yes, you just do the other stuff that you're doing. Those instincts are on, but also do it first and spend the most time on, and your most creative time on it. Like that's when you're most, yeah.
Okay. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Thank all the different aspects of your consciousness as you met, inquired, and unfolded and expanded here. Thanking what showed up, your mind, your scientist, thanking your gut, thanking sky, thanking earth, thanking time, thanking doom, which actually was potentiality of liberation, and thanking receiving the thanks of earth and sky, like thank the Lord, someone's given voice to this possibility, receiving that, and the microbes, thanking them for showing up and their thanks to you. Thanks for the reminders, the really grounded reminders about everyday 3D life, like you're doing with your car, that they got your back, they're looking after you. And thanking for them guiding you about just keep effing doing it. Do your painting first, keep painting. Yes, there's stuff impending here, maybe liberation, keep painting. Thank you to your consciousness. Anything you want to say is Hannah, make sure you thank everything. Give it flowers, give it roses, give it paintbrushes, give it kudos, you know, love, whatever. You really want to recognize it because it came out beautifully for you. So cool. Love the right brain, love our larger intelligence. Might be hard to shift out of it, but I'm going to give you first anything you want to say, and then I'll open it up to others about how this is landing for you and what's going on for the people who are preciously holding the container for you.
I am deliberate. So this has been a really uncomfortable experience in a good way, like a good growth.
Mm-hmm.
Yes, because I've done this with you before, but never with other people.
Right.
So I was with the drawing as you were doing it, like I normally would be. And it was, at first I was self-conscious, just seeing just even knowing, but then seeing other faces. And then I just made a shift from the self-consciousness into it was like comforting in a way, and the container of being,
You went for it.
yeah,
Even though it was vulnerable, you went for it. Thank you for going for it.
So I appreciate that experience in general, and those of you here, I guess, witnessing it and
Mm-hmm.
and doing your own versions of it, real time.
Yeah, so you're thanking people.
Yeah.
Sweet.
And I also am struck by, I always love how, and I'm so excited about whoever's doing the visuals, how they unfold.
The intuitiveness of it all. Yeah, if you just go with it. Yeah. Get the mind out of it, right? That's a nice thing about having to work real and spontaneous. You don't have any time. You just got to go for it and let that other aspect of you take over. Yeah.
Is to the live stuff is just stop thinking it, right?
Yep. Get out of the way and don't worry about that perfection, because that's cool. There's a place for perfection in our work for sure. Part of the animals, but this animal, and then there's a different kind of perfection that emerges out of that fast intuitiveness. Yeah, I love that too.
The last piece about it that strikes me is that it always comes back to the painting piece.
For you, yes, it does. Yeah.
It always comes back to that. And so it just keeps getting validated every single time. So
Yep.
that it's like, oh, okay.
That's your focus. Yeah. There's all these other things that are helping you, that are supporting you to do that, those more mundane things, but ultimately that's your big thing.
Other business things and other things too, right? And they're all supportive of and in service of that is what it feels like.
Okay, thank you, Hannah. I'm going to open it up to those of you who are graciously holding the container. Anything you want to say to Hannah? Anything about how this is parallel processing for you?
I have a couple of responses. One is, as I was watching the Christina, your drawing and putting into words and images what Hannah was processing, just the really cool shift that occurred when you put feet on the figure that was connected to the earth. And so it's like, up until then, it felt like it was still kind of disembodied for me. It was like still in that what's next. But once you drew the feet, it really made it felt more grounding. So that was just another level of how the visual part, can really enhance the processing. And the other thing, as I was doing my own parallel processing, was a question about the liberation and how can I experience liberation no matter who wins the election. And for me, it's not to keep painting, but it's to keep writing.
Yeah.
That was a helpful connection. So
what just flashed for me too, Jude, was a polarity square. So let's see. I guess you could take either political party, right? So you could say desire for X to win, fear of X to win, desire for X to win, fear of X to win, right? With both sides of the spectrum politically, and see what comes up. Because there's obviously two that are more in your consciousness and two that will be more in the subconscious. And to play with those and see that there actually might be something in there that will surprise you. And then that'll help balance it all out so that it's, and then you'll figure out once you've done that work where the transcendent state is, and then there's that let it go prayer, which is, this is bigger than me, so let it go and let grace take care of it and see what happens.
Yeah, so thank you, Hannah, very much.
Yeah, fantastic inquiry that you're left with, Jude. Getting a hot flash. Anybody else?
Yeah, Hannah, thank you so much for bringing this up. I think it's something that we're all experiencing, but there's not a power big enough to say stop. This is not okay. So thank you. I appreciate the cross processing that was happening for me, because it made me feel empowered while realizing we don't have top cover on this. There's no top cover for us. This is it. The strength has to happen in here. So thank you for building that in all of us.
And you may want to just do the same thing if that one's up for you. See, just because that's how it's wired in for Hannah, that's a beautiful example. But do the same thing yourself and see where it leads you. Yeah. And it may be something very different, right? Because we're all individuals. Yeah. Thanks, Heather. And Tony, you flashed on your video, so I'm going to assume that you want to jump in.
No, it wasn't, but I forgot I had the video turned on, but yeah.
Oh.
No problem. Yeah, thanks to Hannah. I wrote a couple of stuff on the chat that were pretty much thanking her for being vulnerable, and yes, it's I know I feel, I understand how it must have felt because it's uncomfortable. Continued, and she went through and allowed us to be part of this because that is also a decision from her. So
Yeah, you've done it
thanks for that.
previously, so you know. Yeah.
Yeah, and yeah, it very much made sense to me. And as I wrote, maybe this pandemic was the tuning fork for being more attuned to the earth, to bring your awareness to that, you know.
Mm-hmm.
And on the other hand, yeah, keep painting your ass off, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Because probably your painting is also a way to flush your feelings, you know, to distill what you feel, you know. The mind is blowing up, you know, your gut is saying alert, and pretty much the paintings also helps to flush that off and keep it flowing inside you. So for me, that's I think a lot of, and I have examples from friends of mine that pretty much people tell them, why do you play piano, you know, why do you paint? You know, it doesn't matter whether you others feel you're good at it or whether they will buy you a painting. It's what's important, what it makes for you, you know, to express your feelings inside if you feel overwhelmed. So keep painting, and thanks for this space because and I'm glad I stayed here. In a moment I thought of leaving, but I think this conversation, I can relate a lot to this and to this higher mental awareness she has, because sometimes we pretty much turn off the awareness button and we tend to nullify certain aspects of reality because it's so complex and so overwhelming, and we
I would
don't have
get you to say I.
So yeah, thanks in general for this beautiful container and for that beautiful unraveling of things, and the emotion Hannah felt, it made it feel so important. So thank you for that.
Mm-hmm. Thank you, Antonio.
I want to, now I'm laughing thinking about the painting because it resonating with what you shared, Antonio, about that I see now in the chat, and then what you just said about the painting in general. And then when I think about the actual paintings I'm doing, it's things like this, which is all about the thing that Christina just drew, which is like alignment and earth and sky and, you know, so it literally is processing of that. So thank you for that reminder.
Cool to see a flash of your art too. Okay, I think we're there for today. Let's do a quick closing statement from our bonus time. Hannah, anything to complete?
I feel settled and seen. Sweet. And thank you all.
Thank you. Let's go to Heather.
I'm incredibly appreciative for this opportunity, and it's not what I thought I was going to do today, but I'm so glad I dropped in. So thank you.
I'm glad you did too. Thank you. Jude.
I feel very inspired and grounded to continue my own work. Thank you for that.
Excellent. Thank you. Antonio?
Yeah, feel, I don't know, I'm attuning to what I feel. I know that also pretty much she expressed something that I feel. So my head doesn't hurt, but I feel my head hot, you know, and it's not because of this. It's because it's a lot to deal with, and yeah. I resonate with that. So I feel moved. I feel not unsettled, but I feel that I need to work more on that. I think we all, I think the world needs more awareness. We need more people that give a shit, you know, and give a shit about the important things, you know, and we sometimes tend to overlook things as being grounded, you know, and the nature, you know, that the earth will be always for us. And the pandemic always showed me that the earth is pretty much we're still continuing if you're not moving on, you know. The earth is not dying, you know. Human race is pretty much extinguishing itself, and the nature will try to continue to solve itself, but we need to live in harmony. So for me, it's
There's the word harmony. You brought that up with your wife too. Yeah,
yeah,
that's a precious word for you. Mm-hmm.
yeah. Nature, harmony, balance.
Mm-hmm.
Life is like that, and if I start to embrace that and to not and to understand things as a whole, I will continue. So it's pretty much reaffirming to continue this journey. So thank you.
Yep, my pleasure. Thank you. Pat, I'll give you the final sign-off word. I think her screen might be frozen. Yep. Oh, well, then I'll do the final word. Thank you, Pat. Thanks for coming. Thanks for bonus time. That was precious, Hannah. I really appreciate being able to feel liberation in the midst of all that. That was an honor to draw out. Every time I work and do the inquiry work, I'm so getting informed along the way. So it's an incredible win-win for me. I appreciate it very much. You having the vulnerability to do that and the privilege for me to be able to sketch that out as we went and hold space. So thanks everybody. That's who we were this week, this drop-in, really precious and amazing. So take good care out there in your worlds and environments and how consciousness moves through you. And I'll see you when I next see you. Take good care. Bye.